There's no doubt Auctions Plus is made for Wagyu. The breed has become an industry talking point ever since in mid-2015 when Wagyu and Wagyu cross cattle started selling for over $6 a kilo live weight on Auctions Plus. Today, we have the privilege of Auctions Plus CEO Anna Spear with us to explain how Wagyu is such a neat fit with this online selling system. Also, why Auctions Plus will run a regular premium Wagyu sale starting on June 8 and hosted by the Australian Wagyu Association. Our session is sponsored by Johnston's Livestock, headquartered in Toowoomba, Queensland. Johnston specialise in safe, efficient and productive supply and transport of Wagyu cattle along the supply chain Australia-wide. Anna Spear studied law and science at university, but turned down law to spend 5 years working for Consolidated Pastoral Company in their stock camps, the beginnings of her involvement of livestock marketing. During her time in the stock camps, Anna completed a Bachelor of Primary and Secondary Education and commenced teaching part-time in remote Indigenous communities. She then turned to agriculture as General Manager of Livestock Exchange, an innovative software solutions provider focused on value adding in the red meat supply chain. This included running projects such as reopening the live export trade between Australia and Egypt and implementing a herd performance management system to Australian Ag Company. As a Director of Future Farmers Network, an Australian Rural Leadership Foundation graduate and a mentor for the Graham Acton Beef Connections Mentor Program, Anna is passionate about improving the Australian livestock supply chain. Please welcome Anna Spear.
Thank you. Good evening, or good afternoon, everyone. It's a little bit humbling to be here today and a little bit daunting as well, because my topic is what a Wagyu worth. And I can't profess to be a subject matter expert in any way, shape or form. As you just heard, I spent 5 years in the Northern Territory, in which my favourite breed, I'm sorry to admit it, has long ears and a little bit of hump. So what I'm going to do today, and some of my favourite customers are also here today, is not tell you what Wagyu are worth, but tell you more so about how you can find out what they are worth. Because as I started doing my research to determine what price indicators are available, much to my surprise, I found that there aren't that many. So, before we kick off, I'm going to tell you a story, because I think it's always nice to start with a story. This story happens at 4 a.m. every Saturday morning in Sydney. In a nondescript building, out the front of a small shop, something quite amazing takes place. And you're all wondering, what on earth is she talking about? At 4 a.m, people start to line up. They begin to form a line that spreads around the block. I'm one of those people. As I wander 3 blocks from my house, I get about halfway there, and the smell hits me. And as I get a little bit closer, I start to hear the shuffling of sleepy feet at 4 o'clock in the morning. And as I get round the corner, I can see the line forming. 2 Vietnamese ladies in their 80s sell the best bread I have ever tasted. People travel from all over Sydney to get this bread. The shop has no name, it has no sign, and if you walk past at any other time of the day during the week, other than between 4 and 5 a.m, you won't even notice the place. So why do people do it? Why do people get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to buy this bread? The reason, ladies and gentlemen, is that they sell something that you cannot get anywhere else. People travel, as I said, across Sydney for this 1 day a week, 1 hour, a finite commodity, and when the bread is gone, the doors close and the crowds disperse. I've been watching this evolution, and the line has been getting longer. Much to my disgust, it means that if I don't get there early enough, I miss out. And we're now starting to see an even bigger evolution, the line, it's not really that much of a line anymore. And the people arrive and they jostle for a position up the front. And get this, they're actually yelling at these Vietnamese ladies. They're yelling the price that they're willing to pay for this bread. I find myself amongst the crowd and I start jostling for position. I normally buy this bread for $4 a loaf. And suddenly I find myself shouting, $6, $7, $8. And I step back and I go, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, it's cold, I want my bread, $10.50. I get my bread, I win, I walk home feeling pretty good about myself. What just happened? In short, a producer, a purveyor of fine food, has created a product that is so highly sought after that people are willing to compete for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Wagyu are that fine food, that luxury niche product, something that you cannot easily replicate, and something that you need to sell for what it is worth. And today I'm going to tell you and show you why the auction system is the best way to determine that value. On the 3rd of July in 2015, the Wagyu market went through the same situation that these Vietnamese ladies went through. Some people have been quoted that it was a Wagyu revolution, and others say it was the highlight for the 2015 cattle year. When I did some research, and thanks go out to John Condon from Beef Central, it's the only place I could get some real true indicators on what the F1 steer indicators were. In January 2015, the price was sitting around 360 cents a kilo live. In July 2015, 420 cents a kilo live. However, on the 3rd of July, when some F1 Wagyu Cross Angus steers weighing 242 kilograms from the Riverina were put onto Auctions Plus, the price went ballistic. We hit 557 cents, and there's people in this room that were taking photos of their computer screen in excitement. So what happened? Essentially, in short, we'd exposed a commodity that is typically sold direct to the open market and disrupted the entire Wagyu system. The media coverage and the hype that followed meant that we continued to break our own record for the next 3 weeks, reaching 604 cents a kilo live within 3 weeks, and on December, in the Want Wagyu sale, we hit 620 cents a kilo live. In short, I believe we'd successfully disrupted a market. I'd love to claim fame to it, it was totally by accident. And the next couple of months was truly indicative of this with the growth of Wagyu on the platform. By breaking up the private supply chains, we enabled the producer to maximise his price and in an open and transparent platform via the power of the auction system. And even more importantly, these courageous pioneers developed the beginning of what could potentially be a price indicator for you. And this is just a bit of an overview of some of the stock that have been sold on Auctions Plus between July 2015 and April 2016. I haven't broken all of my slides down into full blood F1, 2, 3 and 4, so this is Wagyu and Wagyu infused stock. And as you can see, predominantly it's the feeder and backgrounder steers and heifers that we've been seeing through the platform. So, to help me tell you why this happened, what I thought I would share with you is a little bit about the evolution of the auction system. Auctions are not a new thing. In fact, they've been around since about 500 BC, where fathers used to auction off their daughters as wives. It was considered illegal to sell your daughter any other way. That being said, once you purchased your new wife, if you didn't get along, you could actually return her in a couple of weeks for a full refund. That being said, unlike the horse trade, you weren't allowed to try before you bought. The next significant auction was in 197 AD, when the entire Roman Empire was put up for auction and sold for 6,250 drachmas per guard. Auctions evolved, and as history will tell us, that it was the easiest and the fastest way to convert a commodity into cash. These gentlemen down in the bottom right-hand side of the screen, they're part of the church, and they're auctioning ships in the 17th and 18th centuries. At that point in time, they decided that when an auction ended at a particular time, there was always some cheeky bugger that was putting his bid in at the last second. We do have that problem occasionally on Auctions Plus. So what they designed was auction by candlelight, and as the candle got lower and lower, the bidding gets faster and furiouser, because at the extinguishment of the candle, which apparently no one knows when that's going to happen, the sale would end. And we continued to see the evolution of the auction system with technology. In the mid to late 80s, we started seeing electronic trading, and in 1996, eBay was born. Why do we care, you ask? What is she talking about? What I want to point out to you is that the auction system is the only way to determine true market value of a product, and in this case, Wagyu. So Auctions Plus. Hands up if you haven't heard of Auctions Plus. Oh, everyone, great. Well, I can walk away. So Auctions Plus. We were established in 1986, which is quite remarkable, given that this was before the internet actually existed in Australia, and 10 years before eBay as well. We were an evolution of CALM, which was computer-aided livestock marketing, and there's a debate as to where the idea actually came from. But essentially, multiple very clever people that had a lot of vision started to put the system together. The belief behind the system is that by using electronic trading, we could improve the traditional physical sale yard market. And that's certainly where the system's grown from. Currently, we transact about 340,000 head of cattle per annum and about 2.2 million sheep. The system's been growing astronomically over the last 2 years, and we have about 35,000 unique visitors going through the website each month. So, as Mark mentioned, it is a fantastic place to get exposure for your stock. The evolution of Auctions Plus and some of the reasons that we believe Auctions Plus is a fantastic marketplace is it reduces the barriers to entry. No longer do you have to drive around Australia to access stock. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. Buyers have the opportunity to peruse an entire menu of stock with absolutely no obligation to purchase. The stock are assessed by accredited assessors who go through and thoroughly, objectively measure the stock, although occasionally we do see some marketing comments, and we work hard to stamp on those as much as possible. The platform provides increased competition. Our average cattle sales have about 300 buyers, and it reduces the cost compared to your physical sale yards. That being said, it's not cheaper than going direct, but I will point out to you why I think you need to do a mixture of both. It's convenient, and it removes the volatility from your sales. If you're selling this week and the market goes flat, the stock remain in your paddock until they're sold or they reach the reserve, and you get a free offer the following week or the week after. From an animal welfare and performance perspective, buyers are getting those animals straight out of your paddock. They're not going through a sale yard, being exposed to disease, and that when they arrive in a feedlot, they can perform to their genetic capabilities. As I mentioned, product integrity is imperative, and probably most importantly, I think, for the Wagyu industry, is that it has an opportunity to deliver a price indicator. Currently, we have about 9,000 people every Friday afternoon logging onto the cattle results, scrolling through to see how their stock performed and also how their stock compared to other people. So, my question to you are your Wagyu all in the one basket, with one of my favourite cartoons of the last dodos on the planet, with all their eggs safely in this basket, and often a somewhat controversial slide. What I want to point out to you is that currently, more than 50% of cattle transactions nationally go direct. One of the benefits of direct sales is the traditional relationships that you form, the ability to provide feedback data to each other, the ability to cater your product to your customers' needs, and to engage. And it's something that I acknowledge is really, really important. One of the challenges, though, with direct relationships is that you don't know whether or not you're getting the fair market value, and you don't know who else is in the market. You have a high customer concentration, which means that should your particular buyer suddenly disappear, you need to find a new place to put your product. And you have unclear market value because you're not using the auction system. Sale yards, in my mind, you shouldn't be selling Wagyu through the sale yard. And so I won't go into that, and most people don't. Although I was having a chuckle with someone who recently made a mozza at buying some Wagyu for 150 cents a kilo live in the sale yards. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a great place for Wagyu. Auctions Plus, on the other hand, I believe it provides you with auction competition, which then in turn gives you a price indicator. What I'm not telling you today, though, is that you should be selling everything online, because I also think that's unrealistic. It does lower the barriers to entry, and all of a sudden, like those Vietnamese women in my story at the start, you are finding out what people really are willing to pay for your product. We have a national buyer footprint, and similar to selling direct, you've got the buyer and vendor confidence alongside welfare and performance. One thing I will acknowledge, though, is that you don't have the relationship, that opportunity for feedback, the ability to perform, engage with your customers, and that's something that we're developing at the moment, because in the livestock sector, I believe that having a lot of collaboration and communication is absolutely imperative to us improving the supply chain. So, in July 2015, we found out something really interesting. Wagyu really suit Auctions Plus. And these are some of the reasons why we believe that they suit Auctions Plus. It's a high-value luxury product. It's scarce. There's very high demand, and traditionally, it's been marketed in a closed shop market. And by giving it access to a national language and a secure platform, we've created access, increased competition, and price discovery. Not to mention, we've had a huge media storm throughout the last 12 months, making people a lot more aware of the breed. I have been asked what happens if we have an oversupply and even a downward trending market. And some people say Auctions Plus is no good in a downward trending market. My opinion is it actually is. Provided you've got realistic reserves, you're still marketing your stock to every potential buyer that is out there. So, some of the interesting stuff, the prices. What are Wagyu worth? We thought we'd pull some data together from July last year up until April this year and give you some insights. And once again, I've combined the Wagyu and Wagyu infused prices to compare against all other breeds. If people would like a more detailed breakdown, come and see us and we can organise to do that. I don't tend to go and promote the breed information too much because we've obviously got customers in all different camps. The average steer prices from July until April, the Wagyu breed averaged 203 cents a kilo live above all other breeds. And you had an average price from July to April of 533 cents a kilo live, with the top price, as I mentioned before, for F4 feeders weighing 388 kilos in the Want Wagyu sale of 621 cents a kilo live. And we're still seeing those prices as recently as the 22nd of April, where we saw F1 steers making over 600 cents a kilo live. This is just a graph of a breakdown of feeders and backgrounds, the blue being the top price and the orange being the average price by steer, heifer and mixed sex. And this is Wagyu and Wagyu infused breeders by commercial crossbred breeder, full blood stud female and full blood bull. And this is one of my favourites, the Wagyu footprint. The blue pin is representative of the buyers, the red pin, the vendors. And as you can see, well, you can see on the slide there, since July last year, we've had 58 unique buyers, so different buyers on the system, and 78 vendors. And we actually had mixed-sex F1 Wagyu Angus cattle travel from Western Australia to an eastern feedlot, and also full-blood feeder cattle travelled from southwest Western Australia to the east. And when we put them, we included the freight in the price, they actually landed at 700 cents a kilo live. As mentioned earlier, we are going to commence doing regular premium Wagyu sales. I believe that they're going to be 2 monthly, and I believe it is the 8th, not the 6th, as I've got on the slide here. One of the reasons that we think that this is a good idea is in the Want Wagyu sale, we really saw that the volume attracted significant buyer attention. It's also great for the buyers because they've got the volume to choose from, and you tend to get more competition. That being said, one of the things we're going to be focused on are some rules and regulations about the stock that can go in there and how it is presented, because it really pays to have links going back to your EBVs, to your pedigrees on the Australian Wagyu Association website, and good photos and videos, like what we saw from Alex earlier on, that really does give the buyers the confidence in that product. The intention there is also to provide you with the data to start creating a bit of a price indicator. And we're looking at new opportunities which include selling on both the spot and the forward market. Last year in August, we did a forward market export and feeder sale with the Angus breeds. I think this is something that the Wagyu industry can really leverage and capitalise on, because you're dealing with an expensive product that you don't want to be selling on the spot market. You want to know what you're going to be getting for it in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months' time. And by providing auction competition on your forward contracts, you get to do that, but you also get to make sure that you're selling to the right person. The red line on this graph is the MLA feeder cattle indicator on the 14th of August when we had this sale. The green line is the average MLA feeder cattle indicator for the month, and obviously you can see that we were well above the indicator. That being said, they were premium Tamania steers at that point in time. But so we had them forward contracted as far out as January, and the feedlot guys were really quite excited about it. Some even being quoted to say they got their Christmas steers because they were shoring up that supply, they were securing what they needed to get, and it also helped them understand what they would be paying. And interestingly, the graph actually flows quite similar along to the MLA feeder cattle indicator. So, nearly finished. Where to next for Auctions Plus? As I mentioned to you before, I really do believe that the relationships and feedback component of the system is really important. So we're currently building an assessor rating system, but also a way that buyers can provide feedback to vendors and assessors and vice versa, so that the system can become more of a community. We're looking at better profiles for brand exposure so that you can market what you're doing on farm. And we're also doing audio and video streaming for our interface sales so that the people on the other end of the screen get to feel the atmosphere that's actually happening in that physical sale. That being said, I still believe that professional photos and videos far outweigh what's happening with a live stream on the day, because you just don't know how well those animals will look in the ring as they're walking around. But in short, we're going to continue to work hard to set the stage for the evolution of streamlining the livestock supply chain. So the key messages I have for you today: Auctions Plus is an ideal channel to market Wagyu and develop a price indicator for the breed. I believe you need to spread your risk to manage the challenges of the traditional supply chain. Wagyu is a premium product, and marketing and branding should be treated accordingly. And evolution to bigger and better things come via development in new technologies, collaboration with customers, and a little courage to try something new. Thank you very much.